Ben?
Yo, Ben, you love lean?
Yes.
Let me set the stage for a moment. Before I show speed, before all the memes, even before the YouTube series, which is surprisingly still going on to this very day, we had this. This is Talking Friends, a 10-episode miniseries based on the Talking Friends apps developed by Outfit 7 Limited in partnership with Disney of all people. I'm not sure how they were managed to strike a deal with each other, but that's besides the point. The series only lasted from June to August of 2012, and the animation itself was handled by a studio called, God, I hope I pronounced this right, Taz Animation. From what I can find, the company either rebranded or they just don't exist anymore. And the only other thing I can find that they really worked on was Avengers Assemble. Now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the premise of the show and who the characters are. The overall premise is just the characters just getting into some hijinks, quote unquote. And that's about it. Yeah. Nothing really too deep here. Now on to the actual characters themselves. First you have Tom, who is basically just the main guy. Not much I can really say about him. Ginger, who's just a generic kid. Ben, who's a scientist and inventor. Angela, who's a pop star, and may or may not have been a subject of controversy. But that's a story for another time.
For a video I'm never gonna make, by the way.
Then you have Pierre, who...
Take that, noob! Cool! That was so realistic!
...is a gamer for some reason. Now it's time to kind of talk about the episodes. I say kind of because all the episodes are 2 to 3 minutes each, and all of them can basically be explained within one sentence. So how about we do something a little more interesting and get into what I like to call a speed round. You can't see me, but I'm doing air quotes over my phone. Tom and Ben build a robot that goes haywire. Tom and Ben try to invent a new sport. Ben builds a jetpack and Ginger screws it up. Ben builds a machine that's supposed to make news. Their words, not mine. Angela stops by and has to record a song. Angela comes back to record a music video. Tom clones himself a bunch of times. Ben builds a machine to give everyone superpowers. Pierre becomes addicted to this game and starts hallucinating. And finally, everyone just sings about what decade they think is the best. And now time to talk about random tidbits, and no, I don't have a better transition for this. First of all, I want to talk about the animation. Compared to the apps, the animation style is really spot on. Even with that, it's clearly not the best. I'm not going to go too hard on it just because this was only a series of webisodes and not something theatrical or anything, but I get the impression that either Disney or some other company involved forced the studio to get the animation done as quickly as possible. This was made on the cheap or some combination of both. The animation looks kind of clunky, there's weird flubs, and in one of the episodes, I don't know if this has something to do with bad rendering, but for a brief moment you get... yeah. And as a little side note before we get into the next section, the partnership with Outfit 7 and Disney actually seemed to go somewhat beyond the webisodes, because, I kid you not, they actually released songs on iTunes. There were only 2 as far as I know, but hey, let's talk about them. One was called You Get Me, which was meant to both promote and play in the Tom Loves Angela app, and yes, that was the actual name. And the second one was called That's Falling in Love, which was meant to promote the Talking Angela app. The releases themselves are just generic love songs, and other than context, there's nothing really interesting about them. So yeah, that's all I really got to say for the iTunes releases. I know this was kind of brief, but moving on. So how would this compare to the 2015 series? Well, for one, the animation definitely got an upgrade. It's interesting what difference 2 to 3 years make, and the characters themselves are kind of different. Allow me to explain. The main cast is kind of the same. Wait, excuse me, what the fuck?
How can they defame my boy Pierre like this?
Sorry about that. Anyway, the biggest difference for me is the personalities and the voices that the characters are given. Ignoring Tom for a minute, and yes, we will be getting back to him soon, they turned Ben into more or less an uptight nerd. Angela kind of became the voice of reason in certain episodes. Even with that, they still kept the pop star thing. And Ginger, his whole thing was pranks, I guess? I haven't actually watched the show in a minute, so sorry if that wasn't really accurate. Anyway, the voices. They're definitely different, alright. I understand what they were trying to go for, but I prefer the original voice actors. Especially for Tom, Ben, and Ginger. For Tom and Ginger, I don't know how to describe it, but it just doesn't sit right for me. And for Ben, they just went full-on nerd. To show you what I mean, just take a listen and see what you prefer.
Is this some fancy gizmo that makes anyone look breathtakingly handsome?
They were in such a hurry to get rid of it, they practically gave it to us.
Excelsior! I have an invention for that!
It's named after the two guys who built it, Gil and Bert.
Today I, Ginger the Great, will defeat gravity because gravity is boring.
I'm sorry, Hank. Give me another chance. I'll be good.
You kind of see what I mean now? And I think that about covers it for the comparisons. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to talk about Hank. No, I am not gonna let this slide. They seriously replaced Pierre with this frickin' goofy-ah knockoff Target dog. Okay, let's finally talk about my final thoughts. To put nostalgic bias aside, because I watched this series religiously when I was younger, for a time, it just simply did its job. It wasn't the greatest, but at the same time, it wasn't really the worst. Even with that, I still recommend giving it a watch. Not only if you're nostalgic for this kind of stuff like I am, but if you're a fan of these apps in general, ironic or not. So basically just about everything I said in the Hoops and Yo-Yo videos more or less applies here. This is probably why I shouldn't be doing these videos to begin with. So yeah, that's all I really gotta say. Stay tuned for whatever garbage I decide to upload next.